Dan, obviously Montreal is a club that you're pretty familiar with, but at this stage, basically, everybody that you played with there is gone. What sort of, I guess, emotional implications are there for a club that you played for, but has kind of experienced complete turnover since then?
Yeah, I mean, to your point, it's even before I got there, it was a club that had a lot of turnover in a lot of different facets. But quite honestly, I think after year 3, I've gotten through the full emotional range of playing them again. But that being said, it's always interesting to play, see some familiar faces, even though it's not a full team and staff and whatever there may be left. But it's always interesting. I think no matter what, over the years, the club has found a way to be sporadically very difficult to play against. And if you look at it, how they were lined up last year, they had a very successful year, and they had a lot of continuity in coaching and players, and that seemed to work well for them. So they obviously represent a little bit of a different beast this year, but a team that always is able to get results in places that people might count them out otherwise.
Next, we'll go to Claudio Villalobos and then Ben Wright. Go ahead, Claudio.
Dan, tell us a little bit about that nice relationship that you've developed rather quickly, I might say, with Jacob and the lead winner of the team that is looking so good so early this season.
Yeah, I think Jacob's been a guy that, obviously we identified as fitting our system quite well, and I think he's, fit in seamlessly. At the end of last year, he had some exciting moments, but it's been good to start, a full campaign with him through the beginning of preseason and to get him used to how we operate and to finer tune some of the details of his game and especially mine to help put him in positions where he's incredibly hard to defend, which we've seen. So whether that's using his pace in behind or using his positional play, I think there's a lot of exciting opportunities for myself and for him to create offensive momentum down our side of the field. And hopefully we're looking forward to doing that a little bit more consistently. But I think we have the luxury of focusing on what we're able to accomplish on our side of the field when you have so much danger through the middle with Hani and Teal and CJ. And having Fafa and Randall on the other side, I think, makes us a pretty well-balanced attack. So we have guys that are able to do well in 1v1 situations. And as a supporting player to those guys up front, it's just it's really important to make sure you know when to pick your spots to get up and help them and when to leave them alone and let them do their thing. So it's always a thing we're trying to find the right balance for, and each game represents a different challenge, but it's something I've thoroughly enjoyed, and he's a great guy to work with.
Thank you, Dan. Next we'll go to Ben and then Tim Sullivan. Go ahead, Ben.
Yeah, Dan. And first of all, just a lot to live up to there. What's the name? But in serious note, we talked a lot last year about home form and kind of the issues at Geodis Park. You guys got off to a really good start against NYCFC. I'm just kind of curious your thoughts on last year and how you guys are setting up to kind of not just avoid those issues, but take a big step forward here this season at home.
Sure. I think there was a unique challenge in opening up a new venue, first and foremost. I think any team that's been able to do that has, not struggled so much maybe as we had to a certain degree, but tried to, get over that hump of being in a new space and trying to establish a style of play and a new set of surroundings. But I think more than anything, having 8 games on the road to open up an MLS campaign is a daunting task. And I remember my years in Toronto, we had stadium renovations 2 years in a row. I think it was 15 and 16, where we started, I think it was 10 games and then 8 games on the road. And through that experience, we kind of understood that there's a certain way to attack those opening slate of away games. And the most difficult thing to do is to not go into, I don't want to call it a shell, but a more pragmatic approach that kind of serves us well in the short term, and then proves a little bit difficult to let the reins off of, the more aggressive style that you want to see more consistently at home. So I think that's a lot of what we saw last year. We have it in us. We have that next gear that we can hit, but having to withstand a schedule that was as daunting as it was away from home and to be so successful at doing it, we're trying to, keep the good things and the good momentum that we had in certain aspects of our game, but fold in the aggressive nature that we wanted to see more consistently at home. And I think that took some adjusting to, and I think that's clear in the results and how things transpired last year. But having an even schedule to start this year, and I think that does us the world of good. And I think having the opening game be at home, a lot of energy to say the least surrounding that game. I think it was going to be pretty hard for us to come out and not get points especially 3 points in a game with so much excitement surrounding it with the New Jerseys and everything. It was just something that we've really focused on setting right and getting off on the right foot so early this year, and we've had the opportunity to do so. So I think that's a lot of words just to say we're able to focus on ourselves and what we're able to accomplish at home, because we have opportunities to do so in quick succession where we were starved of that maybe a little bit last year. So it's something we're very grateful for finally, and to have last year under our belt is great, but we're looking to kick things up a notch for sure, at home especially.
Thank you, Dan. We'll wrap up the session today with Tim Sullivan. Go ahead, Tim.
Dan, when you look at a Montreal team that almost exclusively operates out of an odd back line, as one of the guys who kind of provides the width on the team, what sort of different challenges does that provide to you? And obviously you guys have played a little bit of it yourselves. What sort of opportunities are you thinking, oh, they'll be able to do, this thing that we need to make sure that we are able to cut out as well?
Yeah, sure. I mean, again, it's the difficulty in this game to try to assume what we think they're going to line up as, because there's been many times where we've prepped for a formation, they've shown up in something different relative to who they have available and how their last result went, whatever it may be. But if they do line up in that back five, I think they are not struggling, but trying to find the right combination of players in certain spots. And as we know, when we switch to that formation or any formation, we're trying to put guys in the right spots to get the best out of them in their respective games. So we assume that they'll do that to some degree, and that might make it look a little untraditional or a little bit, a little bit different than how we may line up. And it's just about, more than anything, focusing on ourselves and knowing that when we're in good form, we pose them equally problematic situations as they would pose us in their setup. So, we're certainly wary of how they'll line up and the glaring mismatches or potential advantages that they may have or seek to have in that matchup. Otherwise, we're just focused on what we're able to do, and we've been doing to a relatively high degree throughout preseason and the first two matches. So we expect it'll look a lot different to last week against Red Bull in a place that's hard to play and a team that plays a totally distinct and different style. But it'll be a good test for us and something we're looking forward to.